Cool. So, this guy. Today we're going to work on leather and stone and fur. So what are we going to work on first, you ask? I don't know. Maybe the fur. So, okay. So what we're going to do, we've got, this is the palette from painting that marine last night. We know we're using black and kind of warmish tones for the undercoating, right? And then we're moving up towards cool tones, which is actually this one right here, this blue that's separated. But oh, Kingdom Death. Hi, Cujo. No, is that from the chest? No, this is Pariah. He's a new release. He came out like a couple weeks. I think I got him like 2 weeks ago. So he is a new kit. He came out with the Red Witches. Not part of the Gambler's Chest. I have painted... Who did I paint from the Gambler's Chest? Have I painted any of the monsters from the Gambler's Chest? I don't think so. I want to paint the Crimson Crocodile. I wouldn't mind painting the King either, but I haven't gotten around. I don't think I've gotten around to any of the Gambler's Chest monsters yet. I kind of just jump around and do whatever I feel like at the time, you know. I'm not a what's it called? We're gonna play around with some stuff today. We're going to goof around with some colors that and sort of test them out. I've tested some of these. I've been using some, so all these clear plastic, he gave me stickers to put on them, but I haven't put them on yet. I've been testing them. I've been playing around with them. I like them so far, but these are the new colors from Cult of Paint. So these are the Cult of Paint colors. They are marked underneath the name. You guys can maybe guess what these are. So CHO and MAH. I don't know what Jasmine? I don't know what this one's supposed to be. CHO, chocolate. MAH, mahogany. PEA. I think it's supposed to be peat. PEAT. So yeah, they've given me a few. I've been messing around with them. We've got two different blacks here. SOO, soot, and where's the other one? Tar, which I think is just tar black, and soot. So he's given me some of these to mess with. I've been playing with them. They are cool. I like them. We will goof around with some of them right now. So this is peat. It's like a warm gray black. Okay. Like almost like a greenish black sort of color. So I want to do the fur more this sort of brown black. You like them so far? Any favorites? I don't have the whole range. She gave me like the browns and a few different like darker colors. Like this one's not even written, but it's like this sort of dark teal blue thing. Gave me the white and like a few other colors. They're pretty good. I'd say they're quite nice. The things I've noticed about them so far, the coverage seems, yeah, I know. Hey man, I'm not saying run out and buy them. Okay. That is not my, I'm just giving my honest opinion on how I think they act. In terms of coverage, because I think people would be interested to know. Coverage is good. Goes on nice and smooth. Some of them are more glossy, some of them are more satin, some of them are more matte. Like the difference between tar and soot is like, I believe tar is the more glossy, like more satin of the two blacks. Soot's more matte. So the range is not like, it's not like, oh, they're all the same finish. So that can be a little weird for some people. Dom's Minis, hello, thanks for the tier 1, 11 months. So it's more, yeah, they're like clearly formulated to act a certain way, right? So they're not like, oh, they need to all be like perfectly consistent. Last week we actually used this guy, CLA. I don't remember exactly what this one is. It's a dark like red magenta kind of color. That one's like a little more satin. We used it when mixing like his skin tone shadow color. And it's nice. I have to say it's nice. One thing I've noticed though is they don't really separate on the palette, which is cool. Notice like you can see here with like the Vallejo one, it separated quite a bit. I've noticed they tend to like stay a little, at least the ones I've used, right? I'm not going to say the whole range because every paint is a little different. But the colors I've played with seem to stay together a little more on a wet palette. So Treader 0, hello, welcome. Yeah, I mean, if you guys have any questions about them, I'd be happy to answer. But it was, like I said, I'm not trying to shill here. I'm just giving my honest opinion of the paints because I also believe that there's too many dang paint ranges. The cult of paints. So yeah, I'm just giving a nice dark brown, like not too reddish here. I want to create a like darker color for a slightly warmer color for his fur. I'm going to grab like a mid-tone kind of tan color to move up. Something like, this is very light, but we'll see how this mixes once you start adding some like of a warmer color to this. There really is too many lines out there. I'm stuck on AK third gen is good, man. It's a good paint line. Yeah, so you can kind of see how it like turns a little more like grayish brown when we mix it with the sand. Isn't Reaper releasing a new line too? Aren't they doing like relaunching the Master Series? You can see also the paint seems to stay, it stays a little wet, like a little longer. So if you're into wet blending, it doesn't seem to dry quite as fast as other paints. It is quite humid today, so that maybe that could have something to do with it. But from my experience, they do seem to dry a little slower. So we can use some of that to get like a little wet blending going on. But I have, yeah, they feel good. And that's about it. So, right, so I'm just getting a warmer tone here than the skin, like a more brown tone than reddish purple tone. Or I'm getting a warmer tone for the fur than the skin. The skin is more of a purpley sort of undertone. This has a slightly more brownish undertone. And then we're going to still move up into the same lights. All right. So starting black and then kind of moving upwards from there, we can move into some of the other tones on this guy to just separate the fur a little bit more. Okay, so I'll take and add a little bit more, and we'll get this kind of sort of olivey tan, this sort of khaki color, and then I can mix a little of the blue to start to cool it off a little more. Okay, so now I'm going to start to give some general shape. So you can see it's still pretty wet here, right? Like some people like this, some don't. I typically like a slightly faster drying paint, just because of the way I work, but I can see the advantage for this type of drying speed, you know? So we can get some general shape to the legs, right? I did notice that this red, so here, we'll use this red actually, because I want to paint the, so this is one of the reds. This is, I have no idea, SH, got me. So this you might be able to see, because this is now pretty dry back here. It's like, you can see it on camera, it's a little more satin, right? The darker, some of the darker colors tend to be a little more satin. This red that we're going to do in some of the collar here, this one dries a little more matte, okay? Ethan, thanks for the tier 1. This might be Scarlet. Charlotte. I don't know what color. I don't know all the names, I'm sorry. Haha. Tricks on you, YouTube audience who wants the recipe. I don't know. It's a red. Can you tell me your recipe? I literally can't. So we're doing the like collar thing here a bit more red. In order to apply a like some more focus to the top. Like I wanted like a splash of more warm color around his face in order to draw a bit more attention here. Just got a $600 water bill because one of my toilet won't stop running, so now I'm fixing that to file with the county. What I want to do is paint. We had that happen and it ended up it was the guy just like read the water meter wrong. We were like, dude, that's like 5 swimming pools worth of water. That doesn't make sense. It was like even if the toilet ran for that long, you can ask them to come out and like recheck the water meter. Like even if the water was running non-stop, like the toilet was running non-stop for that long, and we were like, they wouldn't have used that much water. I was like, that's like impossible. Like, and then they came back out and they're like, yeah, sorry, your $800 water bill was actually a $20 water bill. Our bad. I've been trying Golden So Flat recently and liking them quite a bit. I've heard they're very good. I have not used them. You know what? I'm curious. How is the Golden So Flat titanium white? That seems to be the hardest paint to find a decent one of. It's like, who's got a decent titanium white? Okay, so here's sort of the idea. Is I want the like warmer colors on the collar. So I'm going to get this warmer red. Schminke, but Schminke, it's too glossy. I don't want like a heavy body glossy white. Like I want a white that is like nice and fluid. Like give me a fluid white. I'm probably asking for the impossible here, but I want like a fluid white with kind of good coverage. Figure it out, chemists. Like one that doesn't get too chalky, but it's not too thick. The problem I have with heavy bodies is a lot of the times when you thin them, they don't work as well as like a paint with, like you thin them with water and then they don't work as well as like a paint with actually like a fluid medium. Chimera white, yeah, I mean, I've used it, it's fine. It's okay. I've tried them all. Actually, one I quite like is, it's not technically pure white. Vallejo model color, like white gray, is pretty dang close to white. You can see it's like, it's quite bright, but it's not. But if you compare it to like ivory, that's why I tend to just stick to like ivory and like off whites. Because it's really hard to get like a really solid like pure white. Hi, Michael or Jonas. Hello, how are you? Thank you. We're having fun with him. So you can see now that this is drying, it's quite matte, right? And this is like a little more see-through, like painting it over top of black. And I forgot to hit record on the thing, so I'm gonna have to just download the Twitch file and let people see all the notifications on the screen. Whoops. Bokanor, hello. How are you? Thanks for the prime. So yeah, this one's a little more matte. The coverage isn't like super strong, but the red itself is like quite pigmented. It's pretty saturated and vibrant. But you know, sometimes that can be exactly what you're looking for. I need to get comfortable with using desaturated tones in my work. The power of gray, baby. I thought it stripped it. I don't know, maybe it does. I normally just hit record on this thing and then export it from there. But I forgot to hit record, so they're gonna get the Twitch version of it. Okay, so let's start to, so now that this is like actually dry, we can come in and start to do some smaller work to the fur now, okay? So now that we're dry, we're gonna start to paint some of the fur texture. And this is quite a textured sculpt, but basically we're going to start, instead of doing like I was, where I was just kind of applying the volumes, now I'm going to start to pick out some of the individual strands here and create some actual texture work as I go. So focusing where more of the highlights are, I'm going to begin to paint little lines and use the sculpt to help me, to kind of inform me of the direction of the brush stroke, but I am not trying to like edge highlight each little individual strand. I'm using sort of the shape to determine how I want to place these lights, and then I can have certain ones like cross and go in the recesses. Some will be a little larger as it gets closer to the main, as it gets closer to the highlight. I can kind of play with the shape and direction of it. The reason I'm not just doing like building up and then doing a wash over the top is because I want it to feel a little softer. And doing like a wash is tends to look very like hard. It accentuates the sculpt too much. I want to use the sculpt in order to make the texture, but not so much that it like looks plastic, right? And not every model is sculpted for me. You know, if I had it my way, this would be even less textured, but you know, not everyone sculpts models exactly for me. I can't believe it. At least it's better than G. It's not porcupine. Yeah, that's quite true. It's not porcupine quills. So you should be able to see the difference between the two now is like now that I've started to do. So this is just like wet blended to get the general shape. This is like starting to apply the texture on top. Okay. And you could get some decent results with just like dry brushing and washing something like this, right? But it is not the effect I'm looking for, right? So as we move down, you can definitely see like sometimes I paint in the recess of the fur. Like these little lines that crisscross in between, you know? It's going to make the hair look more layered and kind of connect the shapes a little more. It makes it feel more like one continuous solid, well, not solid, but one continuous material instead of like I said, a bunch of little quills or whatever. I mean, that's not what we want. Thanks, Cujo. Have a good night. Appreciate you stopping in. Okay. Right, so it's like right here, yeah, where I just did this little piece, right? You got one tuft sort of here, and then another one that kind of goes this way. So it's like by painting a line that goes across them, it creates some cohesion between the two little forms. And you end up with a more natural result. This is a really cool Kingdom Death model. What kind of character is he? He is he's a boss. You have two types of monsters in Kingdom Death. You have what are called like hunts and nemesis. So he is a nemesis, or hunts are the ones you go after in order to get resources and to make new equipment and stuff. Nemesis are bosses, so they are the ones that show up, and you don't really get materials from them in order to craft. It's more like these either 1-time or 3-time encounters that are like checks to see how you're doing in the game. Like, are you strong enough to beat this guy? Right? So he is a nemesis. And he is a vampire man of some kind. So this is the level 3 version of him. So this would be the 3rd time you fight him. Do I have the other one? Yes, I do. Hold on. So this is the first time they've done it as officially, right? There's like the cat and stuff I've talked about last week, but this is the level 1 and 2 version of him, and then he got buff. So you can see his deal is he's actually like this. So the model is sculpted to be upside down. He's hanging from the ceiling. If I put his cape on, it sells the effect a little better because his cape. Oh, come on, focus. Right. So his cape, he's hanging, and his hair makes sense. He's hanging upside down from the ceiling. You fight the boss on the ceiling. So the whole, you can imagine the whole board is flipped upside down, and you're fighting him on the ceiling. I'll grab some of the survivors in a bit to show you guys sort of what the survivors look like that are also, some of them are like hanging, so they're sculpted upside down. But they have like climbing gear and stuff to hang from the ceiling and fight him, which is cool. Kingdom Death sounds really interesting and fun to play. It is my favorite board game. Okay, so I'm adding some more texture, a little more light to the central area. See, I'm trying to do this sort of crisscross thing where I let the lines kind of cross over multiple volumes, paint in between in order to create these soft shapes. What's the barrier to entry actually to play the game? Yeah, the core set, which I would recommend buying on Black Friday. He always does sales. Like that is definitely the best time to buy the game. So you can play the core set for quite a long time actually, and then you can kind of build out from there. If you were going to buy any expansions to start, buy any expansions after the core set, I would go with the Dragon King and the Sunstalker. Those would be the first two I would buy. Okay, so you can see just how much more light we added to the fur here. We've got some texture going on. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a bigger brush. I'm going to take some of the dark color here. I might even add just a little bit of red to it to create a kind of dark glaze. And then I'm going to restore some of the shape. Right, and the reason I added just a touch of red is to kind of play into give a bit of like a reddish undertone that I'm using in other areas. So I'm just glazing this color on top in sort of the general shape of the leg to restore some of the... It's very easy when you're doing this texture to kind of lose the overall shape. So what I'll do is I will tone it back down. And then if I need, I can push the lights up some more in order to get the texture back to where I want it. Pop some bubbles. There we go. Okay. Genuinely curious, why Dragon King and Sunstalker first? I think that's what you said. Do they make up a particular campaign or something? Yes, they both have their own campaigns that come with them. I also think they come with they come with like the most content, like most bang for your buck in terms of like dollar investment to add on to the game. I also think they're both really interesting fights and they come with cool gear. Some of the other ones are like, I don't know how much they really add particularly to the game, right? Like Lion Knight is another Nemesis monster. He could really, like, I don't know, he doesn't really do much for me. All right, so you can see so adding a little bit of color back into the mid-tone. There, we darken it back down a little bit, restore some of that shape. And now we can come back again with just some of the light blue at the very end. Yeah, Lonely Tree like doesn't add a whole lot to the game. There's just certain monsters that, like, or certain expansions, I should say, that you feel like you get a lot more out of. And I think Dragon King and Sunstalker are probably the two best in terms of the content that they add. I mean, probably the best would be the Gambler's Chest, but that's pretty expensive, and I think it's actually more than the base game, and it really adds quite a lot. But it also almost like it really changes the way the game is played too. So it would be more something that I would think about like later. Like, oh, do I really like this? I like after you've beaten the original game and you want something like you want a new experience on how to play Kingdom Death, play advanced Kingdom Death. Okay, so we just add a little bit more light there and you get a little more shape to just a little punch of highlight here on the fur at the end. Couple little lines and stuff just to give some final shape to the leg. See you, Doms. So that's sort of what we're going for. So we'll do the same thing over here. This one's going to have a little less light. So I think because the leg sticks out a little more, right? It's a little more upward facing. Here we kind of focus the light a little more in like the center of this shape, right? This has this sort of like bowed out shape like this. Focus this one a little more centralized. This one will be a little higher, like more, the center of the light will be a little more right here towards the upper thigh. So I kind of start and build out from there. Has anyone else beaten KDM? Have you taken down the Gold Smoke Knight? Have you defeated the Gold Smoke? Wow, Dave, you don't say. It's not like you play with me. How would I have known that? Oh yeah, I was there. Okay, so we start to build a little texture. What do you do about terrain? It seems a shame to have beautiful minis on a bare table. They actually made a 3D board. It plays on a 2-dimensional board with like little tiles for terrain, but they did make a 3-dimensional board. For me, it's like, I don't really care about the terrain, to be honest. Like, it's not like it's not like in Kill Team or something where the terrain like affects the line of sight or anything. Like, it does technically a little bit in Kingdom Death, but it's not enough to really matter. So it's not something I would consider like important. But if you're a big terrain person, they do have a 3D board, and they're creating some 3-dimensional terrain. Diego, thanks for the Prime for 5 months. Hello, welcome back. Loose hair. Yeah, it's more aesthetic. In fact, I think sometimes the 3-dimensional terrain could actually get in the way, because there's like for example, one of the terrain pieces, and you will see it in the like very first fight, is grass patches, and you can hide in the grass, right? It's like, how do you model that where as like a 3-dimensional terrain where your guys can stand in, 6-foot tall grass? would just become kind of annoying. Or have an upside down encounter. Well, that one, I mean, that's you're just playing the board right side up, but your figures are upside down. So strangely works. One of the newer one of the monsters that is not quite out yet, he should be out soon, plays an auto scroller, which I think is really cool. So it's on a big tile board. I forget exactly how many squares it is. It's like 24 by, maybe it's like 24 by 18 squares or something like that. But one of the monsters that's coming out is the Screaming God, who is a giant antelope monster, and he plays the game like an auto scroller. So every turn you draw a tile or you draw a card, which tells you what the next like 6 squares of the board looks like. So everything shifts down, and then you add the new squares onto the end of the board, right? So everything moves down. Like if the screen is a square, right? Let's do it real fast. So it's like this. This is here. Whoop, can't see that at all because it's too shiny. But it's like, let's take some bottles, right? So it's like, imagine the board is like this, where it's like, this is here, this is here, this is down here, this is right here, right? And then you draw a card, and everything's moving this way, and the monster is running around doing stuff, and you're chasing him around the board. You draw a card, and it tells you to put this here on the end of the board, right? So it's like this comes onto the board, and all of this stuff shifts down like this, and you have to like run after the monster as he's moving up the board. So you have to chase him down, and if you fall off the back of the board, so if you get pushed off the end, so if your guy's standing right here, and then this goes bonk and it knocks you off the back, you get trampled by the like stampede that's chasing behind you. What up, Mose? I think it sounds very interesting. So it's like turns a board game into an auto scroller. Machine Spirit Live, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. I appreciate it very much. Thank you, thank you. And I'm all out of gum. Here to watch me talk about chasing down giant antelopes. I haven't fought him yet. We painted him on stream. The Black Knight. Maybe some of you may have been around for that stream. So the Black Knight has a gimmick where he basically, his board is covered in these elastomer statues, and he plays ping pong with you basically. So you get like all bumped around the board. He like slams you into the walls, and it like ping pongs you around the table, which is sounds quite cool. But I have not fought him yet. Yeah, man. Don't want to go flying off the edge of the table because I guess you fight him on like the top of a mountain or something. So, or some cathedral or church on top of a mountain. So if you get knocked off the edge, you go flying to your doom. Turns out, guys, in Kingdom Death, your characters die quite often. Oh, sorry, they're unalived. Eric, are you coming to Italy for Monte? Yes, I am. I will be there. Unalived question mark. Didn't that like start on was that like a TikTok thing? Like TikTok was like, no, you can't say the word death in your death or kill or anything like that in your videos. And where that started. I'm too old for the TikTok, so I don't know. I don't know. I say it all the time talking about games like this, so. I haven't gotten any content warnings or anything. Okay, so got sort of the other one here. Now we need to add Kingdom Unalive Monster. Yep, that's the one. My favorite game, guys. You didn't know that was a thing? Probably for the best. The internet's a silly place. Is it worse or better, Flapjack? I'm not even gonna say it. I'm not even gonna say it. It might be. Boots might think it's better. Thanks, Papa Ganoush. Thanks for knowing the reference. All right, so we got some of the shape there. Now we can come back, do the same thing again. We make up a little mixture here. Make a little glaze, a little filter. Might be too red this time. There we go, that's better. Have you ever had a painting lull slow down before as a professional painter? Slow down? I've had moments where I've not been like super inspired, I guess. Wouldn't say I've. I mean, even this year, like I talked about on the last stream, like I've been painting more gaming figures and stuff recently and been saving my like creative energy, I guess, in order to do like fewer bigger projects. So I've just been painting stuff that I have fun with. I have fun painting the bigger projects, but sometimes doing them box arts like back to back to back to back to back can be pretty tiring. So yeah, it happens from time to time. But I enjoy painting, so I never like go a long period of time without painting miniatures. Like I paint something, it's just depends on what my focus is at the time. So this year, right, it's been like going through it the past 2 months, first time since display painting, seeing what people do to get through it. Yeah, my recommendation to you would be like if you're tired or burned out of one particular thing. Like I've never gotten burned out of actual painting. Like I like painting, I find it relaxing. I don't get burned out of that. I've gotten kind of burned out on travel where I'm just like, oh my God, I just want to stay home. And I've gotten kind of burned out on doing nonstop like box arts and stuff, but the actual painting, no, like I like that. So what my recommendation would be to just like paint some things you enjoy, right? Just like, why did you start miniature painting in the first place, right? Did you start miniature painting with bus, or did you start through something else? And then do that thing. Hey, so you started with Warhammer. Okay, so do the thing that got you into it in the first place, right? Like, have some fun, paint some Warhammer models, right? There's just nothing wrong with that. Not every figure that you paint has to be your next masterpiece. Oh man, we're not upside down this stream? Oh, sorry, hold on. Is that better? Batman hanging upside down doing his bat thing. When's the last time you felt a piece you painted was a failure or weren't happy with the outcome? And follow up, what did you do with that piece? Okay. Let's save it until I get back from my smoke break. I'll tell you about it, Pete. He's giving me strong Akuma vibes. He does have some Akuma vibes, huh? Hello, I'm back. Oh, let's look at I brought a figure upstairs. Well, let's do this first, and then I'll show you another figure. So, I need to find this picture. Where is it? Pete asked the question. I'll reread the question. When's the last time you felt a piece you painted was a failure or you were not happy with the outcome? And follow up, what did you do with that piece? So I will show you the figure. Okay. You guys aren't allowed to getting all huffy puffy about the quality of the paint job, because I'll explain. All right. I don't want to hear the, oh, I can't believe he said that. Blah, 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 blah. Like, this is my personal feelings on it. Okay. I will show you guys the figure so I can explain. So, this is the figure that I was not happy with. Why? So, I struggled to get through this figure. Not that I think the paint job is bad. I don't think it's bad. I just wasn't particularly happy with it. It took me longer than normal to paint this model. I felt like I was going through a bit of the motions on it, right? I didn't feel like I was really doing anything different or new with it. I was getting tired of painting figures sort of similar to this. Yeah, it just felt like I was doing sort of the same thing, right? So it's not that I consider it a bad paint job or anything. It's just that I wasn't particularly happy with the painting. I wasn't happy with my painting on it. Yeah, and it was just like felt like I was doing the same thing. Okay. What did I do with the model? I sold it. Yeah, it has been sold to Verco's Vault, actually. What colors would I change it to? It's not the colors I think are bad or anything. It's just like, it's hard to explain. Okay, like it's hard to explain what about it exactly I don't like. It's, I think the thing I didn't like about it was just that it felt like I was doing more of the same. Which is why after this I kind of did like, I painted this sort of around a similar time to like the Clue and some other stuff where I was pushing myself on different things besides just Eric painted another orc. You know? So there's your answer. Yeah. The vibes. The vibes were off. Yeah, that's it. Nothing about it particularly. Is it a split complementary piece? Yeah, it's not really. It's sort of just complementary. It's like yellow and purple. I guess there's some other tones in here like reds and things, but that's the one. So after that figure, I was doing more experimentation with some of my work, with some of my figures. Got back to painting a little more gaming figures because that was early this year. Early this year is when I painted that. Then after that, I've been painting more experimental pieces, painting more gaming figures and stuff. Dapperwalkie, hello. Speaking of gaming figures, here's another Space Marine you guys haven't seen. So this is another one of my Deathwatch Marines that I finished last week. This is the Breacher. He's a red scorpion. He's got a melt-a-bomb and stuff. He's cool. I like him. See if we can see the face. Look how angry he is. Did that answer your question, Pete? So what I'm doing here is I grabbed a brighter red and I'm going to apply some of this brighter red in the thinner sections of the collar, I guess. When is the last time I put a piece down and said, F this piece? Never. At least not as a professional. I'll give you some more. So I'll give you this. So after I did that figure, I was supposed to do you guys know the Journeyman Journey to the West figures, the Wukong and the big bull demon? Do you know that figure? Since I'm being an open book and answering painting stuff, maybe you know the figure. Yes, you have the bull demon. Okay, I was supposed to do the box art for that figure. I had agreed to do the box art for that piece. After doing the work on the bull, I was like, nah, I don't want to do this. I'm not feeling it. It is the only figure that I have ever gone back to the company and been like, I'm sorry, I don't want to paint this box art. It was nothing against the actual figure. It just was like the headspace or whatever I was in. I talked to Tim, who was very understanding, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't want to paint this. I could force myself to, but I don't think I would do a particularly good job on it. And I think it would be better if you gave it to someone else. And he was quite understanding. But that is the first and only time. I've turned down some commissions since. But I was pretty bad about just saying yes to everything. Do you remember the first piece that you got paid to paint? That depends. Is it the first box art? Do you want to know the first box art, or do you want to know the first figure I ever got paid to paint? Because the first figure was just some gaming figure. I think it was like a what are those things called? The blood letters on the juggernauts. I painted some of those as like a commission way back in the day, and that's what made me go, I will never be a commission painter. I don't want to do this. And then later I did some got into doing some box arts. And my first box art, I don't remember exactly what figures it was because I got a couple at the same time, but like Aurora 2 and some of the figures for Aurora 2, and there was some Infernal character from War Machine that I painted. Those were like my first box arts. And my first 75mm box art, my first like display scale model was Borka, this guy with a big axe for Hera models. Guys, it's really easy to become typecast, I guess you could say, as a miniature painter. And as someone who enjoys painting different things, like different subject matters and pushing themselves, it can become a little tiring, or you lose some creative expression when you do kind of the same models all the time. not same models, but you know, basically the same subject matter all the time. Not that I don't like painting an orc every once in a while, but when you paint like as many orcs as I have, orcs and goblins, it definitely starts to become a little snooze festy. You feel like you're just repeating yourself. Like I was turning down a bunch of commissions. I have her. Let me grab her real fast. I was turning down a bunch of box arts earlier this year. And I said yes to her because it was like something really different, you know? Something, yeah, it was like something cool and unique to try, right? This is like the furthest thing away from painting another Warcraft style of work. So. Do you find having different business streams help break it up? So you're always challenging yourself, etc., to break up the repetitive cycle? Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of traveling and teaching. I can paint things I want. I'm lucky in that I can do like collector commissions. I have a few very large pieces that I will do. Like not this year. I might start one this year. That I will do like some larger diorama style pieces. More stuff that's, yeah, it's like, you know, getting to have fun and exploring different things. So, you know, maybe they're not box arts, but they're like big pieces, you know? What was the other question? What are some subjects and different ways you're pushing yourself now? Pushing myself through exploring different like styles, how to represent certain materials. One of the big things with both the Clue and the recent class bus, right, of Weirin. Where is he? I can show him too. 400 millimeter or bigger. Not big like large figures, you know, not like statues, but like multiple figures interacting and stuff. Where is he? Oh, he's still in the box from Nova. Anyways, you guys know the one. One with the hood and the claymore, right? One of the things with that one that I wanted to do was like really explore like super high rendering on hands and stuff like that. Trying to push myself on exploring certain aspects of, I guess not like hyper realism, but like a bit of different rendering techniques, and yeah, the Clue was the same. Like, can I paint this jacket, you know? Do you do any canvas stuff or something similar? Sometimes. I mean, I sketch and draw, but not super often. I used to a lot when I was younger. Like occasionally I'll sit down and watch a movie and draw something on my iPad. Let's see if I have it. Do I have it on here? Oh my god, I'm gonna have to go so far back in order to find it because of all the Feedback Friday pieces. Let's see. Had to be after that. Where would it be? Where would it be? Hello. Missing some, all right, what's the date? September, no, April 4th. Where is he? Here we go. What was that? First time, oh, we got a raid. Froggy PhD, hello, welcome. Welcome in, raiders. How are you? What were you doing? What were you working on? Here, people were asking me about drawing, 2D drawing. Like I did this one night while watching a movie. I don't know. It was just like, felt like drawing something, so. Occasionally I will do just some sketching, you know. I was like, hey, I feel like drawing a space marine, so I drew a space marine. But yeah. I was doing a Tyranid ripping apart a Terminator project working on the wings. Cool. Do you still get that aha moment when you feel the model comes alive? Not exactly. It's more like little things that I go like, okay, I start to understand some nuance or whatever. But yeah. I think there's still plenty of things to explore in miniature painting. The problem is if I knew exactly what those were, I would be doing them. But I think there's still plenty of things to push and learn that we can improve on and get better at. But until I know exactly what those are, then yeah. Keepa and that shy cat, thanks for following. Hello, welcome. So, anyways, I hope that sort of answers your guys' questions. Feel free to ask whatever else as this becomes a therapy and psychology of miniature painting stream. You guys want to get into my head. Oof. There's nothing really going on up there. This could be a stupid question, but as you have painted, have you gotten better at being able to put a mini down and move on to the next project, or is it something you have to actively mind it about? I'm very good at putting a model down and moving on. That is something you have to learn how to do as a professional. You do not have an option. Do you like to eat? Then you need to finish and move on. Being able to set deadlines for yourself and go, yep, that's done. Time to move on. JC, African or European? Will you be teaching at Adepticon next year? Yes. Eric, if a fly had no wings, would it be called a walk? No. Did you make the base on that as well? Which, on this guy? No, he comes with this. He comes with this base. I really like the, I wish all of them came with bases, because the regular one, the level 1 and 2 Pariah does not, and I would appreciate it if he did. I like it a lot more when they come with the scenic bases. Next color. Okay. So we're going to start a little more of the leather. I'm going to put some of this right here. But first I'm going to get back the kind of webbing on this. I want it to be like, as it gets thinner, as like the membrane, right, gets thinner, it gets darker. And then I'll put some highlighting on that, almost like painting sheer fabric, right? We're basically doing a similar effect. See a slap some ice cream. For competition pieces, do you still ask for feedback while in the process? And do you ever get the feeling where you can't tell if it's good or not anymore from staring at it for so many hours? Now, I mean, I can tell if my painting is good or not. Like, that's not a problem, I would say. Yes, I still get feedback, but it's normally on like very specific things. Like, hey, is this part working? What do you think could be better or improved? I think it's important to have those specific people that you can go to for feedback. I have very certain people that I will ask because I know they will give me their honest opinion on it. So it's more like, hey, this part here or whatever could be better, you know? Good night, Froggy. Thanks for the raid. Hope you have a good one. Thoughts of the past. Thank you for following. Welcome in. Do you have any tips for getting back into miniatures, working on miniatures? You just gotta paint, dude. That's all there is to it. What's stopping you? All right. Let's ask ourselves a question. What do you need to get back into it? What's stopping you from doing it right now? Dude, toilet fix was not easy. Like actually fixing the toilet or dealing with the city of Richmond or whatever. I mean, I could talk about like painting motivation and stuff, but really all that comes down to is just you know, I don't think motivation is really a thing, to be honest. I guess you can be motivated to do so. You can be excited to do something like, oh, I'm excited to work on these guys. But when it comes down to like practicing and stuff, it's not motivation that matters. It's discipline. Like what motivation are you? A deadline can act as motivation, right? Like I need to have this done by this date. Thus, it is pushing me to have it done by a certain time, right? So I can use certain deadlines of like shows or whatever as motivation to get something done. But the actual actual painting comes down more to discipline of just like actually sitting down at your desk and working. And the easier you make that, the better, right? Like, I understand some people don't have a ton of space, so they don't have like a permanent workstation. But if you can just sit down at your desk and immediately start working, like, that's the best way to, like, get painting. Because I find that if I just, even on days that I like not particularly excited to paint something, like, well, I'd rather be playing a video game, which is why I don't play video games very often, because I am one of those people that would just be like, yeah, I mean, I could be painting or I could be playing Silk Song, and I'm just going to do that instead. The having like a place that you can just like sit down and start going, man, that gets me like every time. Like once I'm actually at the desk, like that's it. I can paint for 8 hours straight, right? No problem. Don't let your dreams be dreams. Just do it. Or something like that. This part's really not important. You can't even see this when the cape's on. I just want to make sure I get some color on here so you can't see any of the zenithal primer when looking at it from super specific angles. my problem with painting minis at this point is I sit down, put a lot of hours in, but the mini doesn't progress much. It doesn't get better. Any thoughts about how to combat that? Ooh, yeah, like going over parts multiple times and stuff that can definitely slow you down. How do you fix that? Sometimes it just takes, yeah, I mean, like feedback can definitely help with stuff like that. You know, getting a little direction can help when you're, you know, on the struggle bus, like correcting the same things over and over again, like repainting parts because of lack of confidence or whatever, where you keep like making changes to the same thing. And sometimes that can just be like either from someone like me, or you could, you know, even sometimes it's just like, hey, ask some friends, like, you know, why isn't this working? What should I do here? How do I fix this? Just need a little guidance sometimes. And always asking yourself, why? Well, you could have focused practice, but if you don't know what's wrong, it can be frustrating. Like you can look at something and be like, it's not, this one part isn't working, but you don't know particularly why it's not working. That's why I say like getting some guidance like that way can help. It is very red, but I like it. It's cool to have like one part be like particular. I'm probably going to do is mask gold and give a little more warmth there, and then the rest of it will be quite cold. So he has like one part. I'm going to do this as like a cold red also. Reddish, or maybe purplish. It'll be dark, whatever it is. Darker color. Let's see. What do we want to try? Mahogany? Let's see what this looks like. I mean, sometimes it's just asking, like, you know, ask the Discord, like in the feedback channel, right? Like, hey, why isn't this working? Right? What do I need? Oh, that's quite brown, huh? That's a nice color. I haven't tried this one yet. It's not quite the color I'm looking for, though. We need more of this red. I want like a reddish black leather. Yeah, something like that. This kind of like deep, sort of purpley gray is nice. Yep, 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 yep. Well, like probably a little difficult for you guys to even see this color because it's quite subtle. I want this to be quite dark. I'll add some highlights, but I like the very dark blackish red to it. So everything has this sort of reddish undertone. Except for the like one part that's extra poppy red, which will kind of work because you have other areas, right? These other areas of red tones, so it doesn't stand out too much. Like normally this, you'd worried about this like standing out too much because of how bright red it is, but because it's a focal area and I'm using red in other parts as like an undertone, it like works. Okay. A little more black. Make sure I get some of these really recessed parts nice and dark. This might actually need a little, I'm going to take just a bit of this guy in like a glaze, right? Maybe not quite a glaze, but I'm going to add a little bit of that to the skin here near the upper arms. So it starts to blend that reddish tone into the leathery bits. Is there a Feedback Friday this week? Yep. Oh, yeah. So you can see I'm trying to introduce a little bit of that reddish color into the upper biceps and stuff. So it, like his skin is changing, like this is part of his skin. It's weird. Okay. Just don't worry about it too much. It's Kingdom Death weirdness. I need to fix that. Can we just make that skin tone real fast? Let's see what we can do. That's not quite right. looks pretty close. Might be slightly more yellow than that. I don't remember what, well, I remember what highlight color I used. I don't remember what exact skin tones I used, right? So it's just like, get something close, it's fine. It's grayish. More important that I get the value roughly accurate than the exact color, because the exact color is so gray that's like, meh, it's fine. Just wanted to blend that in just a touch. Hey, what is that on his? There's a little mark on his booty. Get that out of here. What is that? Some dust? I don't know. Apply a little bit of black wash over this just to get some of those really deep recesses. I'm always happy to help out. And get some over here. Like that. Okay. So once that dries, we'll start layering over top of that. And yeah. Okay, I'm going to take another quick break, and then when I come back, we'll work on the leather some more, and then we'll work on the base a little bit. He's got other little non-metallic parts, and I've got to do the cape and stuff. I don't know how interesting you guys will find the cape. A lot of it will probably be done with airbrush, just because it's easier. Like, and if you want to see how I paint a cape with an airbrush, go watch the Black Knight video. Hello, I'm back. Hi. How's everybody doing? Well, let's work on the leather. The leather? Air quote? I don't know what it is. a little more. I'm going to try here to move over slightly. Yeah, I'm just trying to get some of the stretchy parts highlighted. Give some definition to these bits. I think those are actual teeth. I don't know. In the world of KDM. I could say probably. In the world of KDM, it's a non-zero chance. All right, switch to a slightly shorter brush for this. All right, I'm going to start mixing in a little bit of the light blue. It's going to turn it this sort of pale, I don't know, puce color, I guess. A little similar to like the reddish tone of the skin. But I want some smaller highlights. Like this is really just to pull out some definition on these parts. I think they are part of him. Because exactly like you said, because KDM weirdness. Hi, Striker. How are you? Okay. So that's just there to give us some shape to the little details, right? Start to catch some of those edges and stuff. But it's still majority black. Stuck in terrain dry brush world at the moment. Hey, man. I've been thinking about that recently. How to best tackle painting the new Tomb World terrain if I wanted to paint it. It doesn't seem like the easiest terrain to paint. All right, so I'm going to start to add a little shine here. It might be a little overboard at the moment, but I can always tone it back. So I'm trying to get that trying to do quite the big shines on it, right? Not big shines, but like a pretty abrupt shine in order to make it like a shiny black leather. Then we can tone it back if we need to. But by putting a pretty large shine, we create this glossy look to the black leather parts. Joshua returns. Hello. Welcome. Thanks for following. I think I'm just going to do, I'm not going to do the teeth as actual teeth. I'm going to do them, I'm just going to have them in the same material as the rest of this part, right? So just something like that, just to pick them out. Do you like KDM models to be grim dark, or do you like more saturated palette? I think it depends on the figure, right? Like some of them, I like them to be a little more moody, you know. And then some of them, I think the piece kind of fits a more like colorful palette. Like the Sunstalker I did pretty colorful, right? Like it's all based on light and the sun, and all its armor is like chromatic and stuff. So I think you can play around with that and still fit the like dark mood. I also did the Dragon King quite bright, but then other figures I think, yeah, they fit better as a moody sort of deal. All right, so then we're going to come back with this one and we're going to start to kind of blend these parts in. So we'll go around some of the light highlights we did, blend this into the black a little bit in order to shrink the main highlight. But hey, they're your models. What about the beach models? A lot of that stuff I don't even buy now. I don't buy those. I don't buy the high school models. Unless it's a figure I really like, unless it has game content, I typically just don't buy it. I don't buy any of the painter scale stuff. And the reason being is if I'm going to paint a Kingdom Death model, I want to paint like a game model. If I want to paint a painter scale model, it's going to be like a large scale figure. It's probably going to be work is what it's going to be. So my Kingdom Death models are more for funsy. They're for me to just enjoy and paint as opposed to commission work, which is why I won't take commissions on Kingdom Death models. Because I'd rather paint my own than paint yours. All right, now let's on a couple spots because we got a nice kind of shine going on now. Hold on, let's get that softened in just a little bit. Yeah, I don't take Warhammer commissions, and I don't take Kingdom Death commissions. And I've had some crazy requests for Warhammer commissions. Like, I've had people ask me to just paint a single head for them, and I'm like, nah, dude, come on. I'm good. I want to buy the core game for this. You can wait. I say wait for Black Friday. That's my recommendation. Okay, so we get a little of that shininess. You can see now the difference between, like, it still reads as like a darker material, even though we're going quite bright in the highlights. All right. It's about how much of the highlight you use, right? So if the highlights are very small and concentrated, but the majority of the material is nice and dark, right? You get a shiny black kind of material. Yet we still have a little bit of that reddish undertone to it that you can see. All right, so now I can come in and add just some tiny little dots here and there to show that this is like really shiny. But it's not like non-metallic because it doesn't have the environmental reflections that non-metallic would. It has just the like main highlight reflection. Know what I mean? Sometimes I like to add a little second one, you know, like got this main kind of shine right here. We can come in and like add another little shine right there. Like maybe it just happens to catch a little light like right there. That's how we do the black leather. Yeah. So we pretty much have a very similar color to the, like the actual colors used are quite close in terms of what his skin tone is, but we have a much different feeling overall by the end of it due to how we render the material, right? You guys get it. You're all experts. I don't need to explain this to you. What's my favorite monster in terms of design or play? Like my favorite mechanically or appearance wise? Both. My favorite appearance-wise is probably the Black Knight. I tend to like the knights. So like Flower Knight, Black Knight, Verdant Knight looks super cool. The Storm Knight I really like. Mechanically, the Dung Beetle Knight is one of my favorite fights in the game. The Gambler was awesome. Which other one? Those are probably my two favorite bosses. Sunstalker is also a fun mechanical fight. Sorry, adjusting camera a little bit here. Dung Beetle Knight is fantastic. It's a interesting game of keep away that you play with him. That's very fun. I don't want to say anything about the Gambler because I feel like if I say anything about him, it'll kind of spoil that fight. So I don't want to really talk about that boss. That is one you want to go in like completely blind. Sadly, Flower Knight is weird because Flower Knight is like one of my favorite models appearance wise and probably one of the most boring mechanical fights in the game. Sadly. I have not played against Black Knight, but he could end up being one of my favorites. I've heard he's quite good as a boss encounter. So I am looking forward to doing that one. I was quite excited by the king, the prospect of the king. Like I thought he was going to be really cool. And then turned out he was not that interesting, sadly. All right. Okay. Let's grab a bigger brush, a big boy. I also like the stone face bases. Speaking of, let's paint some stone faces. So we're going to use some of the black here. And we're going to mix a little bit of this peat and some of this gray. And create like a slightly warm gray kind of undercoat for these. And I'm just going to go around and like, I'm not really trying to, I'm just going to pick out where some of this darker primer I see is, okay? So normally I would say make sure to get a really good base coat, right? Oh, get a really solid base coat. Here, I'm actually kind of okay with the base coat like not being perfect. Like, because we're going to be building like this textured stone on top of it, I'm a little less concerned about it being like super clean. All right, so just trying to get some sort of shadows down. On these parts. Let the primer kind of show me where these shadows will go, right? We can do some stabbing. All right, something kind of like that. Okay, just getting a rough sort of shape there. And then I'm going to take and I'm going to add some more of the blue and probably some of this neutral gray. Start to mix a lighter value. And then we're going to start anywhere where we see sort of this intermediate tone, right? Where it's not quite pure white. It's more of this like speckled intermediate gray. We're going to start to build up some of the lights on the face. Right, and I'm intentionally trying to make this sort of scratchy, rough layer. I'm not super worried about it being like really blended and smooth because we're going for this stonework look. We can create a more rough textured appearance to the rocks, you know? Let the randomness of the brush do some work for you, right? You should be able to see this gray is still a bit warm at this point, right? Like this is a warm gray. Okay? We're going to move to a colder gray, don't worry. I see you worrying. You're going, what's this guy doing? What is he thinking? I'm just trying to lay down an underlying tone, you know? Have some texture to build on top of. Okay, something like that, right? Dot, 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 dot. Poke, poke, poke. Right, so it's like stippling, but we're doing like big, like, you know, speaking of, what if we were to take a brush like this, like a dry brush, you know? And let's grab a little more blue. Well, we're gonna use, we're not gonna do it as an actual dry brush. Like we're gonna have it be a little wet. Right? And then I'm gonna take and I'm gonna mix some of the more neutral gray. This sort of cold gray. All right, we can, where'd that go? Okay. So we're going to start to move more into a cool blue gray. We can even grab maybe just a touch of this turquoise, not too much. So I'm not really dry brushing here. I'm more like doing big stippling. I'm letting the brush kind of create some randomness on the surface. All right. And as we layer on top of this more and more, it'll become more smooth. But all this patchiness as we work in thinner layers, like this patchiness will show up through the thinner layers and create a bit of like a like surface texture to it. So I'm intentionally trying not to be like super refined at this stage. I don't want it to be too perfect. I just want to get the general rough shape in, and then as I build on top of this and begin to blend and use thinner, it'll show through. Yeah. The difference between doing this and doing it as like a like an actual dry brush is the dry brushing often results in a very dusty sort of finish. I don't want dusty. I want like rocky and chipped and veiny sort of appearance to it, you know? So as I come back and start to like blend in between, right, I'm just poking and texturing. And this is like a little wet now. So you'll actually start to see through some of what I'm doing. Okay? Like you'll begin to see the layers underneath, right? It's not like super thick paint, so the coverage isn't really high. Yeah. We've got a smaller one if we need. We can grab like one of these really tiny dry brushes. I basically never actually use these as a dry brush. All right, so we start to create, we find a value in between and we start to create some texture. Let the brush create the randomness for us. I think this is interesting because this will force you guys to, if you try this for yourself, it'll really force you to kind of focus on the big shapes like at first, because you don't have the control to like get into the smaller details with a brush like this, right? Especially if it's wet, as opposed to like a dry brush where you're just picking out the edges and stuff. This really forces you to just think about the big overall shapes. Okay, let's push it a little more light. Yeah. So as I'm kind of poking and applying this texture, I don't want to do it like I make sure I sort of spin the brush. Like, I don't know if you guys can see that, but like if I do it like this here, maybe that'll help so you can see the branding on the brush, right? So as I poke and spin, right, this is going to help create a more random texture, because if you do it in the same angle all the time, it can result. I don't need these right now. I don't know why I'm even wearing them. It can result in a very like uniform pattern, and we don't want that. We want a randomized texture. So you should start to get a feeling, even though I haven't really done any details at all yet, right? I'm just doing the big overall shapes. You should start to get some of this sensation of the rockiness to the stone. And everyone has either fallen asleep in chat or is mesmerized. All right, so, right, we got the big, rough overall shapes. Hey, enjoy your cookies and your margarita, you know? Now, we can go back to the big brush that is old and kind of do this with an old brush, by the way. Don't do it with a new brush. You're going to destroy brushes this way. But now I can come back with like that deep brown, but see how kind of watery it is. It's not a glaze, but it's like a thin layer. Okay. Here, I'll show you on the paper towel. I actually suck some of the moisture out. Yep. Then I'm gonna, now I'm not like, I'm not stabbing so much as like doing sort of glazes and kind of pulling it around as I go. This is kind of how I did the, if you want to see, like on these guys, right? This is sort of how I did the like beat up metal, this sort of galvanized metal look on these things, right? You can kind of use your finger as an eraser, like I'm getting it kind of into the recesses here, and then using my finger as like a sponge to sort of pull some paint off where I don't want it. And then we can use it as like a big wash too, so you can do stuff like this and get a nice like wash on all the teeth. Get in between all the faces on the base. Right, use that finger. Pull it off where you don't want. What's my approach if I wanted to do marble? Well, I wouldn't do marble on a surface like this. Personally, typically when you see marble, like you see most of the like texture in marble more on flat objects than you do on like statues and stuff. So like marble carved statues tend to just be like a more white marble than they do like a super veiny marble. A lot of that sort of texture in marble, that like veiny webbed texture that you expect is often more on like a polished, like flat, so like floor tiling and stuff. Otherwise it kind of just looks like white stone, right? So, and if I was doing a flat marble, right? Like if I wanted to do a marble floor or something, I would probably do I would start with the like airbrush technique using baby wipes or dryer sheets, you know. If you don't know that, look it up. In fact, I think someone did a video recently. I don't know if it was Sergio Calvo or Angel, one of the two, I think, did like showing a bit of that like, but it's very easy to find. Look up marble airbrush, right? I would start with that and then I would move on from there. But it doesn't work very well on stuff like this because it's too much detailed of a surface. It's also kind of like wood grain. Like you don't see wood grain as much unless it's on like if you're painting wood grain, right? Like wood grain is very dependent on what part of the wood grain you're looking at. Like, is it edge grain? Is it in grain? Is it like face grain? You know. So, like, you actually wouldn't paint a wood grain like you would on like a gun stock or like a ship's wheel or on a door like you would on or a shield, right? Like you would on just like a hunk of wood, right? Or like a wood carving, like a statue. That the grain's gonna look very different. Yeah. If you were gonna do a Roman column, I would do the spray technique. Okay, so there we can do a little wash, right? So you apply a little wash, gives us some nice shadows. We're going to play around with a little bit of the red too, just because I want some of it in the base for fun. But we're going to do it as like a real thin glaze, just like a little bit of this magenta color in a few spots. I don't want a lot of it, but I'm going to use a little bit in the shadows just to sort of tie it in, like just little splotches here and there, nothing crazy, right? I don't want like literal bright red on here, but I can pull some of that color in, and because it's on this gray surface, it can act as just like a little subtle hints of this color, right? Again, this sort of idea of like this undertone. Especially in like the deep shadows where it's like it's going to turn really dark anyways. Like I don't even know if you guys can see it on camera, but in hand you can pick up these like this. There's this little hint of red, you know, makes the shadows a little more interesting, and it lets us reuse a bit of the color from other parts of the model. All right. So now you can see the stone is starting to come together a little more. Then we can come back with some of our intermediate colors and start to do some more accurate blending, right? Now if we want to make adjustments to shapes, like I'm doing like dot, 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 dot. It's like, think about like painting in Morse code almost, right? I was like, dot dot dash dot dot squiggle, right? Squiggly dash dot dot, right? So I'm just trying to keep the brush moving around, but but it's pretty thin paint. Because we've done all the thick work, right? So you can see like here where I do this, right? Something like this, okay? It's like I start to refine the shape a little, but I'm not doing it with like big, like thick paint. I'm just making these small adjustments, and these little adjustments start to create this vein, right? Like if I want to blend this, okay, I got to come back with a shadow color, right? Start to sort of blend that together. So it's like trying to layer in between, but I'm using the dots and lines in order to blend, but it creates more of this patchiness. And you could do the same thing with rough metal. Right? You just have to think more about reflections as opposed to, like, yes, you get some natural light, but you have to play a bit more with like the main reflections and stuff. Okay, so now we're too zoomed in. I wanted to really show what the brush was doing. Yeah. So now we can start to add some shininess to the rock. You know, add some specular highlights here and there. Start to pick out some of the edges. I like to kind of sometimes continue them even though they're sculpted, right? So I'll continue that crack further down than it's actually sculpted. Like, yeah, this rock has been, so it goes from like a deep crack to this more superficial crack. Is it like maybe these ones connect, right? So it's like, oh, well, this crack formed here because he buried this hook into the face there. So it's like anything else we paint. We just paint more small and refined as we go, right? It starts really big, the texture starts really big, and then as we build layers on top, that texture and detail gets smaller and more refined until we're making these like very small adjustments, just creating highlights and things where we need them in order to create the end result and effect. 4 a.m. wake up call, so you're supposed to enter the sleep dimension. Ta-ta. Eric, the bass has been very fun and educational tonight. Well, thank you. And we can introduce new little cracks, like, there's just this little, we could do something like this, like there's a little chip here or something, and it's just catching some light. Right? Yeah. Makes sense. And switch to a smaller brush if we need. All right. Let's get some shadows, some deeper shadows in some of these parts to create some more separation here. Sometimes you might have to go back and do some like stronger hard-edged line work, Any questions? Basically, the whole idea is to create something random and natural, right? If you overanalyze and overthink it, you're not going to be very random. Hello, Jiger TV. Hi, thanks for the Prime. No questions about painting rocks. I've once again explained it perfectly. Now, the one sad thing is that this base is almost all curves. We don't really have any flat surfaces to talk about, but the same sort of a principle would apply if we were painting with something with a bunch of like flat surfaces, that we want to treat the surfaces more plain, right? And then we build up the texture on top of that, but you have to simplify the planes first and then build into the more complex shapes, you know? Major Asnable. Sometimes I induce tans in with my neutral blue or cold rocks. Gives this variety to stone. Yeah. A glaze, cost time, not much thought. Or not much though. What would be your approach to adding more color to the stone like this if it were a natural stone? Similar to what I did with the red, right? Let's add a little splash of color. So normally I would think about like lichen and stuff and how that kind of affects the color of the rock. But let's say I wanted to add a little bit of this blue, right? So I would get it like nice and thin, and I would just, apply something like that. Or I would do this sort of streak thing where it's like, if you think about like rain streaks, you think about like the direction it runs. The problem with this guy is they run this direction. So if it was rain streaks, or water got on the ceiling, you could do stuff like this, right? Where you want to introduce some sort of weathering or whatever. You can mix up a sort of gross color like this, right? We can do something like think about where that water would run down this and create some kind of streaky effect like that. So there's another way to introduce some color. It gets a little weird because, right, this guy's supposed to be upside down. So the water streaks would have to run, like it would drip off the end of his, if you thought about the stone face, like the water would drip off the end of the statue's nose, you know? Like maybe there's some water that like concentrates in his nose or something. It runs in between his teeth, runs down these cracks like this, starts to create some different color effects, right? And then if I was doing lichen or something, I would take like some sort of tans and apply more little stippling or some sponging. Yeah, you get like water streaks and stuff. Could be bat poop, but that would be if it was on like the floor of a cave, right? Some guano. Another thing I want to do is I want to come back and kind of in between the faces. I think it looks cleaner with these flat sections if you paint them black. And I have to go around and do all the individual smaller faces, but you guys should have the rough idea. Yeah. This is going to be metal, so I just need to black this hook in. You can even add some brown to it, do like a rusty steel sort of iron thing. Is that base what came with the bottle, or did you sculpt it? No, it came with it. Some Kingdom Death models come with bases, some don't. It's kind of random, I feel like, when they decide they want to include a base with the model. You can get a bunch of individual models. It's just not so much the bosses. The bosses always come with other stuff. There's a lot of individual models. What's the most common mistake you see with average painters when it comes to painting hair? They try and paint the sculpt. They paint spaghetti hair. So because the sculpt is out of scale, right, it's too chunky, they try and basically edge highlight every individual sculpted strand, and it ends up looking like a bunch of noodles instead of soft hair. That's the most common mistake. Don't paint spaghetti. I think it's actually better if you're going to go one direction or the other with hair. I think it's actually better to under define it than over define it. Like, I rather see an under defined too smooth hair than I would like super defined, like overly sharp looking hair. Yeah, this part of the base is cool. You can see where he's like sticking his toes into the rocks. Oh, man's got strong feet, dude. All right. No questions about the base? You're all satisfied with my rock explanation? You're all ready to go out and paint some stone? He needs those extra arms for embracing you. You know? I think we made some good progress on him today. Yeah, there's parts I need to go in and paint, but yeah, I started with a few different brushes. So I started with this big guy right here. This is like I don't know. Apparently this is a small. I guess that makes sense since this is a large. Or this is an extra large. So, extra large. This is a large then? Yeah, large. I don't know where the medium went. Small. And then extra small. So, I used the small and extra small. Just to, like, stipple, you know? Like a pretty heavy stippling. Cool. All right. I think that will do it for the night. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let's see who we're going to go right into. Who are we going to send you over to?